So how many of you would like more happiness and fulfillment in your life and your work? How many of you would like to have more energy at the end of the day than you had at the beginning of the day? How many of you would like to improve your relationship with your family, your friends, and your coworkers? That's what we're going to talk about today. First thing people ask me is, how tall are you, Dave? I'm 6'6", but I'm 6'9" in heels. One of the problems with growing up tall and growing up poor is you grow faster than your family's ability to get you pants. So I always had high water pants or floods. They never made it all the way down. And my mom didn't want me to feel bad, though, so she told me they're capri pants and they're coming back in style. I'm 6'6", my wife is 5'3". If that's hard to understand how that works, just realize that in our relationship, deodorant is more important than breath mints. I've always been different. I've been different because I'm tall. I was different because I was skinny. I was different because I was poor. And I always hated being different, and I wanted to be normal, and I wanted to be like everybody else. But then I discovered that it's awesome to be different, and I decided it was time to start flaunting it and stop trying to fix it. And I think we've all been taught the wrong thing about weaknesses and the wrong things about being different. And so I want to talk to you first about awakening. Everything we've been taught about weakness is wrong. When I was a kid, I got in trouble for 3 things. I couldn't sit still, be quiet, and do what I was told. Especially at school, what are the only 3 things they really care about? So teachers told me I was obnoxious, and I was rebellious, and I was immature, and I was inappropriate. And if I didn't fix all these weaknesses, I was going to end up homeless and living in a van down by the river. And when they couldn't deal with me anymore, they'd send me to the principal's office. And the principal, I remember at this small Christian school I went to, he sat me down on his lap, which seems a little questionable now looking back on it. Don't do that during performance evaluations. That's not good. And he told me a story about 3 kinds of bad people. There's bad people, really bad people, and people who are too far gone. I'm 8 years old. He's telling me this story. And he says, Dave, I think you're a really bad kid, and you're on your way to being too far gone where you're not going to be able to turn it back around if you don't get it under control pretty fast. You've got to fix these weaknesses. You can't succeed in life if you can't sit still, be quiet, do what you're told. My parents tended to agree with the teachers. How many of your parents thought a good whooping was good for you every once in a while, even just to remind you who was in charge, right? My parents were the type who didn't apologize even if they spanked you for something that you ended up not doing. They just say, that's the one that you get for what we haven't caught you for yet. I did this presentation in Australia, and sometimes language is a little different, so I whispered to my buddy before I went up there, I said, I'm about to do a thing on spanking. Is that okay? He said, we call it smacking. You don't want to call about spanking. That's going to seem like a different thing. But I don't know about your parents, okay? I don't know about your parents, but my parents are very different. They have 2 different spanking styles. My dad was all business. It was nothing personal. He was just the enforcer, and he did it because my mom asked him to. And he'd always hit you 3 times, and he'd always hit you with the belt, and it was this big old belt. It wouldn't even fit in today's belt loops. I'm not even sure if they've changed belt loop size over the years. Big praise the Lord belt buckle right in the middle. But he'd only hit you 3 times, and it was nothing personal. And he wasn't upset with you. My mom was totally different, though. My mom would just hit you till she felt better about what you'd done wrong, right? And she didn't hit you with a belt. She just grabbed stuff, right? And one time she's swinging at me with this yardstick, and it breaks. And I thought that the laws of justice dictated that when the implement of punishment breaks during said punishment, the punishee is now exonerated from future punishment. But my mom does not believe in the laws of justice. And she was just mad that I'd broken the implement of punishment. And she told me, you stay there. I'm going to go get something more sturdy to hit you with. I think I still have religious issues because of the praise the Lord belt buckle. But we think if we punish people for the wrong things and reward people for the right things, we can turn them into whatever we want them to be, but that's not reality. See, I couldn't sit still, be quiet, and do what I was told, but now I make a living standing up, talking, and running my own business. Everything that people told me was wrong with me is everything I use to be successful. I can't sit still. So I stand up. I can't be quiet, so I talk. I can't do what I'm told, so I do my own thing. But when I was a kid, and even as an adult, nobody ever saw that. They only saw the weakness. They never saw the strength. But they do studies, and they always ask people, what's your biggest fear? And it's always public speaking. And lower down on the list are things like death. Seinfeld said, since people fear public speaking more than death, it means at any given funeral, people would rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy. I love to do, even when I was getting punished, what most people would rather die than do, and nobody could see it was a strength. All they could see was the weakness. And that takes us to the next level, awareness. Right? Awareness. We need to find our strengths, but we miss them because they're hiding inside of our weaknesses. And people are really good at finding weaknesses because that's what they're looking for. It's called confirmation bias. Confirmation bias means that when you buy a new car and you drive off the lot in your Toyota Camry and your Lexus, you see the same car you bought everywhere because you're looking for it now. We find what we're looking for, and we've been told to look for weaknesses because if we fix our weaknesses, we'll get better, and it's not true. Even little kids do this. My 2-year-old was sitting next to me one morning. We were watching cartoons, and I get into cartoons. And so Dora's trying to make it to the castle, and I'm focused. My daughter's bothering me, asking me questions, and I'm like, hold on. Let's wait for a commercial. Right? She's about to cross the bridge, and the troll's got difficult questions. She says, Daddy, is your tummy full? And it's right away in the morning. I said, no, Daddy's not tummy's not full. We haven't had breakfast yet. She said, Daddy, is your tummy full? I said, no, quiet. And then I looked at her, and she wasn't looking at me. She was looking right here. She said, Daddy, is your tummy full? And I said, no. And she said, you got a baby in there. So I decided to work it. I decided if I looked pregnant, I was going to start using expectant mother's parking, right? So I just roll up, use expectant mother's parking, because nobody wants to be wrong about that, right? Nobody wants to run up to you and be like, hey, oh, you are just a really giant, ugly, pregnant woman. I'm sorry about that. Just move on. I should have known there was a problem when I started seeing women wearing those maternity pants, and I was like, those are sweet. Big stretchy patch right in the middle. Allows for expansion. By the way, that's $1 million idea, maternity pants for men, because for women, they can only wear them for 6 months, but men, we could use these 20, 30 years. These things are good for us. Because what you don't know is what men do right now is they wear their same waist size as high school. They just pull them up till they stop, right? And then they just keep going. You know a dude who can't admit reality when he's walking like this, right? But people find weaknesses because that's what they're looking for, and they've been trained to, and they think they're helping us when they point them out, but they're not. Parker Palmer says we're led to truth by our weaknesses as well as our strengths. But I want to show you a different way that we're led to truth by our weaknesses than what we traditionally think, and that takes us to acceptance. Our weaknesses are strengths in disguise. I hate being tall, especially on airplanes. Regional flights, I get on like this. I can't put my head back up till I sit down. And then I have to put my knees up here. But then I try to go to the bathroom. And the toilet's over there. But the ceiling goes like that. And I don't do yoga. And I've only got one hand because I need the other one. I can hold on with one hand, but I need the other one. And then I realize, wait a second. That's the sink right there. That's a lot higher and a lot closer. If you did not believe in the importance of portable hand sanitizer, maybe I just helped you out. But everything is a strength and a weakness at the same time. It's terrible to be tall, and it's awesome to be tall. But you don't get the advantage of being tall without the disadvantage of being tall. And what we've been taught is you can be everything all the time and be right in the middle and be perfect, and you can have the best of both worlds, and it's not true. Every strength has a corresponding weakness. Every weakness has a corresponding strength. Cameron Harold had you all stand up and identify yourselves as bipolar. willingly, voluntarily. And what you said is, I'm bipolar and I'm an awesome entrepreneur. And part of being bipolar is helping me to be an entrepreneur. It's not hurting me. But you might say, Dave, can't we change? My grandparents are 90 years old. This is not them. They've been married for 70 years, since the end of World War II. And last summer, I'm talking to my grandma, and she's complaining to me that my grandfather doesn't talk to her enough. He hasn't been talking to her enough for 70 years. But she feels like she's right on the verge of a breakthrough. He's just about to become the man she's always wanted him to be. And for his part, he's doing the same thing. He thinks that if he sits really still, stays really quiet, maybe she'll leave him the hell alone. Shut up, all right? I've got a master's degree in counseling psychology. I have 6 years of higher education on how to sit still and be quiet, and I still can't do it. Don't tell me if you try hard enough. I tried. I've run 40-mile ultramarathons. I've got a doctorate. I've got self-discipline, but there are some areas that you just simply won't be effective, and it's time to leave those alone and focus on areas where you can be more successful. Everybody's got side effects. There's no such thing as a medicine without side effects, and if you try to eliminate the side effects of a medicine, you have to eliminate the power of the medicine. And when people are trying to get rid of your side effects, when you're trying to get rid of your side effects, you're going to destroy the power and the strength that you have. Requip is a medicine that helps people with restless leg syndrome. One of its side effects is compulsive gambling urges. If you want what it does, you have to deal with the side effects. Peter Drucker said this. He said, strong people always have strong weaknesses too. Where there are peaks, there are valleys. Catherine Rohr's on page 89 of my Freak Factor book because she found the peaks that go with the valleys of prisoners. She found the strength hiding inside the weakness. She found good where everybody else saw bad. She found entrepreneurs and executives where other people only saw felons. Strong people always have strong weaknesses too, where there are peaks, there are valleys. The problem is people are trying to tear down your peaks to fill in the valleys to make it nice and flat and easy to drive around on. But that's not what makes you successful. What makes you successful is scooping out the valleys to pile it up on top of the peaks, to make the peaks even higher, the strengths even stronger, and the weaknesses even weaker in the process. Simple explanation of this, and what happens when we try to do both, is Walmart and Target. Walmart has one big strength, low prices. They have 3 basic weaknesses and a lot others, but poor service, poor quality, poor design. We go over to Target. Ladies, what do we call Target? Target, right? Ladies will say, people will say, I got it at Target. No one's ever going to say, I got it at Walmart. No one's ever going to do that. We go to Target, you get better service, better quality, better design, but what do? You have to pay for it. So their weaknesses, their prices are a little bit higher. Traditional approaches to development, to improvement, tell you that you as a person and you as a business should fix your weaknesses. Let's go to Walmart and do that. Let's get better service, pay people better, train them better. Let's get better quality stuff. Let's hire some designers. What just happened to our prices? The prices went up and the strength went down. Let's go to Target. Let's lower those prices. We got to cut service, cut quality, cut design. When you fix weaknesses, you destroy strengths. They're connected. When you eliminate the one, you destroy the other. It's not separate. They're not distinctive. They're not separated. And if you don't believe me, there's a case study. Why do people shop at Kmart? They don't. Okay? And they went bankrupt. And why did they go bankrupt? They were the savings place. They had the distribution. They had the reputation. They had everything. And when Walmart came to town with low prices, Kmart got Martha Stewart, and they didn't know she was a hardened criminal at the time, so it's not their fault. But they tried to be a little bit of Walmart and a little bit of Kmart, and they ended up a whole lot of bankrupt. They tried to have the best of both worlds. They ended up with the worst of both worlds. They tried to be everything to everybody, and they ended up nothing to nobody. And that's what happens to us when we try to do both. When we refuse to concentrate on what we're best at and we get focused on what we're worst at, we end up destroying our ability to be successful. And that's why we need to appreciate our characteristics. George Eliot says every limit is a beginning as well as an ending, and I want to show you today the beginnings that come with the limits that we have, and I'm going to close with one last example. Dyslexia is a problem. Dyslexia causes people to struggle to read, to put words and letters together, and we're taught that in our society, if you can't do that, you're going to fail. But they've done studies of millionaires in the UK, and they discovered that 50% of the millionaires in their study had dyslexia, even though only 10% of people in the general population have dyslexia. 33% of entrepreneurs in a US study had dyslexia, even though only 10% of people in the regular population have dyslexia. Ingvar Kamprad, the founder of Ikea, has dyslexia. Ikea was supposed to be called Ikea, but it got all mixed up. Richard Branson has dyslexia, and you might think maybe they're not as excited about dyslexia as you are, Dave. But they asked him, how has this affected your success? And he said, strangely, I think my dyslexia has helped. What I'm telling you today is we succeed because of our weaknesses, not in spite of them. Millionaires, entrepreneurs, billionaires with dyslexia, it leaves me with one question. Where can I get me some dyslexia? I'm going to be doing a workshop at 3:30. I'm going to walk you through an assessment, show you how you can identify your strengths and weaknesses, how they're related, how you can apply this to your businesses in managing people, how you can improve your marriages, how you can improve your relationships with your children, how you can have more happiness, fulfillment, and more energy. I'd love to see you there, and I'd like to start a Freak Revolution. Thank you very much.